This video is going to cover the annotated bibliography requirements. So it has three parts to it: the works cited entry, the thesis statement for the source information you collect, and a summary of the research with in-text documentation. So the works cited entry is covered in week 3. So if you go to the assignment page and you jump down to week 3, you'll learn how to create the works cited entry by using these videos right here. So I won't cover it in this video. So we're going to cover the thesis statement for the source information and the summary and the in-text citation process. So your document's going to look like this. We're still using Google Docs. You still have your heading here, your header up here. Your title for this document is going to be the research topic that you're researching. So this document's about cybersecurity. You start with the works cited entry. Notice that I've titled it. It says works cited. The W is capitalized, as is the C, and it's centered by using the center align. That's all we'll go over here. The next part here then is the thesis statement for the source information. So you're summarizing the information that you collect from the source. So you're not summarizing the entire source, just the information that you collect from the source. You start with a signal phrase and establish the source's authority. So let's take a look at that. So the source that I used is KnowBe4. KnowBe4 is a security awareness training company. So this is what establishes their authority. If I just said KnowBe4 explains that hackers attack people in 3 ways, the reader's going to say, well, who's KnowBe4? Well, I've told the reader who it is. All right, so it's a private company that provides security awareness training to other companies. Then I summarize here the parts that I took from the reading, the parts that I summarized. So I summarized that hackers attack people in 3 ways, and so I described the digital in-person attacks and phone attacks. I talk about what red flag warnings are, and I talk about tips for blocking hackers, because all those things were covered in the essay, and all those things will be useful to the essay I write about cybersecurity. All right, so again, this is a summary. The second part then is a summary of the main ideas that I've covered up here. So this is sort of like, if you think about this, is what a thesis statement does. It outlines the main ideas, and then below them it summarizes them. So here I've promised to cover the 3 types of attacks. And so we've got digital attacks in 1 paragraph, in-person attacks in a 2nd body paragraph, phone attacks in a 3rd body paragraph. Then I get to the second part of my main idea sentence here, which is red flag warnings. So I jump down here and I put a heading, and then I've summarized the red flag warnings. Then I get to the last part, which are tips for blockers. Again, I put a heading here, and then I have a summary here, and notice that I've indented each paragraph. So here I've summarized the tips for blockers, and then here other facts that I collected from the source was this information right here, which maybe I could use in my introduction. So you're welcome to collect other information. All right. So far, so good. All right, so now we want to talk about the in-text citation process. So the reason I'm having you create your works cited entries so I can guide you to see how well you're doing on them. But you're also using those works cited entries in order to create the proper in-text citations. And in-text citations are simply, I'm saying in-text citations are 2 things: signal phrases and parenthetical citations. Okay. Easy to tell the difference because parenthetical citation, the information appears in parentheses. The signal phrase appears either at the beginning, the middle, or the end of a sentence. Okay. So in each of these paragraphs right here, after I finish summarizing the information, I put the first, I'm deciding to use a parenthetical citation, and the information that goes in the parenthetical citation is the first word or several words of the works cited entry. So I'm just going to take the KnowBe4 here, and I put it in quotation marks because it's in quotation marks up here, and I'm just using a piece of it. All this does is it provides a link to the reader to link them back to the works cited page. So it's a direct link. Here I put this as an example because you want to avoid using the pronouns you. We're not going to use you, we, us, I, None of those pronouns. Those are personal pronouns. We're focusing on a generic pronoun, which is they. So we'll say people and they. So that's why I say hacker. I'm not saying a hacker sends out fake emails to you. Notice. So we're trying to eliminate that. So that's my signal phrase, or that's my parenthetical citation right here. This part, know before security awareness company, is a signal phrase. So I have those two choices for documenting my research. So notice here that I have know before here, but it's not in quotation marks. And that means that I would come to the end of here, which I know may seem repetitive, but this is a direct link again to the Works Cited page. All right. If I want to add notes to remind me to follow up on other information, just put that information in a different color font, preferably blue. What else? So here I make some observations that I want to think about for extending my research. And I think that's it. Oh, one last thing. So the key to this is that you that you summarize the sections that apply to your research and provide those in-text documentation. It's very critical that you do not overquote. People overquote because they're too lazy to summarize or paraphrase. So Bedford Handbook, which is Diana Hacker, who's a very popular handbook, points out that these are the 4 reasons here, top 4 reasons that people should use a direct quote. When language is especially vivid or expressive. In other words, I want it to be said exactly how they said it because it's critical, and I don't want to put it in my own words, or it's so difficult to put in my words because it's so vivid or expressive that I need to quote it. Number 2, when the exact wording is needed for technical accuracy. In other words, they're using such highly technical language that I cannot summarize it, so I'll put it in direct quotes. Number 3 is when it's important to let the debaters of an issue explain their positions in their own words. So sometimes you might want to summarize something that you're like, I would never say that, I would never think that. I need to let the readers know that this is what the opponents or somebody else believes, so I will directly quote them rather than summarize them. That way the reader can see exact words and not think that I may be biased in some way. And the last one is when the words of an important authority lend weight to an argument. So if it's maybe somebody famous or well-established. All right, so those are the reasons you want to quote. If something can be summarized, you should summarize it unless it meets some of these criteria. Again, we don't want to use these pronouns. I forgot to add the word I. We're not talking about ourselves. We're talking to the reader as you, and we're not talking to us as a group. So it's a formal piece of writing. All right, the big thing here then is that you only count the pages that apply to your research question. So say that you found a 10-page article, but only page 5 is something you need to summarize for your research paper. That means only page 5 counts towards your word page count for the week. And that's a part of the research process that can be very frustrating for students, but it's a natural part of the research process. I conducted research for an iPad project a year ago, and I probably read 55 articles and probably only could use 30 or 40 of them. So having to read information that's not valuable to you is part of editing out the research process and culling out information to find what you're looking for. So don't let it frustrate you. Well, you can let it frustrate you, but please accept that that is part of the process. All right, feel free to email me if you have any questions. For this first annotated bibliography that you're submitting, if you end up using 2 different sources, then you'll have 2 different entries. So you should have an entry for each different source. So let me say that again. So basically, if in this article, if this hadn't been so extensive, maybe I only found a little bit of information, then I would start all over here at the bottom with source 2, and I would start all over, add a works cited page, add the thesis, and then add the summary by paragraphing it. All right. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Security. Oh, so for the first week, you only have to make sure that you've read and summarized 5 pages of reading. You will get a chance to revise and edit this first week. That way you'll understand the guidelines better, and you'll understand where you're going off track. So the goal here should always be to make progress. So for example, if in your first paper that you sent to me, you left off the heading, and I noted that to you, and then you continue to do it, that's where I'll start dinging you for points. Because basically you're not learning then. So just continue, make sure that each time you progress from document to document, that you're making progress. That's the goal. And that's why you can only submit 1 document at a time, is because the goal is to learn something from the work that you did so that you can apply it to the next assignments. All right, let me know if you have any questions.